There is a second VA check that a lot of veterans are owed right now, every single month, on top of the compensation they already get. Not a higher rating. Not a one-time payout. A separate, recurring payment that stacks right on top of your regular check. And most of the veterans who qualify for it will never see a dime, not because they don't deserve it, but because the VA doesn't volunteer it. It hides under a name almost nobody recognizes, and you have to know to ask for it by name. You can be sitting at 100%, the highest rating there is, and still be leaving this money on the table every single month. So stay with me, because I'm going to show you exactly what this second check is, who qualifies, the one version veterans miss more than any other, and exactly how to claim it without paying anyone a dime. Quick word on who I am and who I'm not. I've spent years studying how veterans' benefits actually work, what veterans get told at the counter, and far more often, what they don't. I am not a veteran. I never served, and I'd never pretend I did. I don't work for the VA, and I'm not a doctor or a lawyer. What I do is dig through the rules and the fine print so you don't have to, and say it in plain English. If that's useful, subscribe and turn on the bell, because this one is worth real money to the right person, and the next video will find you. Let me start with the idea that unlocks all of it, because once you see it, you'll notice money you've been walking past for years. This second check is called Special Monthly Compensation, SMC. And here's the part that trips everyone up: SMC is not a rating. It has nothing to do with your percentage going from 90 to 100. It's an entirely separate kind of payment, paid on top of your regular disability compensation, for specific serious situations the VA recognizes as deserving extra. So you can the reason so many veterans never even look. They think, I'm already at 100, there's nothing more, and they're wrong. There's a whole layer above it, and most people never climb to it because no one told them it was there. You might be wondering, if this is real, why on earth wouldn't the VA just tell me? Fair question. And the answer isn't some dramatic conspiracy. It's simpler, and honestly more frustrating than that. The VA is built to pay out what you claim correctly, not to go hunting for extra things to hand you. There's no person whose job is to call you up and say, based on your file, you might qualify for an additional payment. Have you looked into it? That person does not exist. The burden is on you to know this layer is there and to ask for it by name. So when veterans miss out, it isn't because they did anything wrong. It's because a complicated system quietly assumes you already know everything it offers, and almost nobody does. That's the whole reason I'm making this video. So who qualifies? Let me walk you through the main situations in plain English, no code letters, no jargon. The first big category is loss, or loss of use, of certain parts of the body. Things like the loss of use of a hand or a foot, blindness, deafness in both ears, and similar serious losses. And pay close attention to that phrase, loss of use, because it matters. You do not necessarily have to have lost the limb. If a service-connected condition has left a hand or a foot so impaired that it no longer really functions, that can count as loss of use, and that can trigger this extra payment. A lot of veterans hear the word loss and assume it only means amputation, and they never realize that severe, disabling damage can qualify too. Picture the veteran whose hand still sits at the end of his arm, but between the nerve damage and the loss of grip, he can't hold a cup or button a shirt anymore. To him it doesn't feel like a loss, because it's still there. But in the eyes of this benefit, a hand that no longer works can be treated like a hand that's gone. Same with feet, with eyes, with ears. The word that matters is use. If your service-connected condition has stolen the use of something, don't rule yourself out just because the part is technically still attached. Now here's the most overlooked one of them all, and I'm going to say it plainly, because it's real money you earned, and embarrassment is the only thing standing between a lot of men and this check. One of the situations that qualifies is the loss of use of a reproductive organ, which, in plain terms, very often means erectile dysfunction. And here's why this matters to so many of you. A huge number of veterans develop this not on its own, but as a side effect, a side effect of the medications they take for service-connected conditions. For pain. For blood pressure. For mental health. When that's the case, when your service-connected condition, or the treatment for it, caused it, it can qualify you for this additional monthly payment. And it's the single most underclaimed piece of the whole thing, for one simple reason: nobody wants to bring it up. It's uncomfort quiet and never mention it to anyone, least of all on a VA form. And that silence has cost veterans an enormous amount of money over the years. So I'll just say it, without any awkwardness, this is a recognized, compensable thing, and the money is yours to claim if it applies to you. Don't let embarrassment talk you out of a check you earned. Stay with me, because the next two situations are where a lot of older veterans find out they qualify and never knew it. The next category is being housebound. If your service-connected conditions effectively keep you confined to your home, or you have one disability at the 100% level plus other separate disabilities on top of that, you can move up to a higher monthly payment for being housebound. And a lot of older veterans in particular slide into this gradually. Their world quietly shrinks to the house, and they never realize the VA actually recognizes that and pays more for it. And the highest levels of all come from needing what the VA calls aid and attendance. If your service-connected conditions have reached the point where you need the regular help of another person for the basic activities of daily life, bathing, dressing, eating, getting around safely, that need is compensable, and at a meaningfully higher level. This is the one that matters enormously for our most disabled veterans, and for aging veterans whose conditions have worsened over time. And I want to say something directly to the spouses and the grown children watching this, because you're often the ones who see it before the veteran will admit it. If you're quietly helping your father get dressed in the morning, or making sure your husband doesn't fall in the shower, or managing the medications because he can't keep them straight anymore, that daily help has a name in this system, and it can mean a significantly larger check. You're not complaining by looking into it. You're making sure the man you're caring for gets what he earned. Pride keeps a lot of veterans from raising their hand here. Sometimes it takes the person beside them to do it. Now here's something most veterans don't know, and it can multiply what you're owed. These can stack. The extra payment for one qualifying situation doesn't automatically cancel out another. In the right circumstances, a veteran with more than one qualifying situation can receive more than one of these additions at the same time. So this isn't always one and done. If more than one of the things I've described touches your life, don't assume you only get credit for one. That's exactly the kind of detail the system will never walk over and explain to you, and exactly the kind of thing a good service officer will catch. And let me be honest about the money, because the levels are very different. At the more common end, the loss of use payment we talked about, including that overlooked one, we're talking well over $100 added to your check every single month, for life. That alone is more than $1,500 a year you'd otherwise never see. And at the higher end, housebound, and especially aid and attendance, we're not talking about a few extra dollars. Those levels move you up to a much higher monthly payment, and at the very top, that runs into thousands of dollars a month more than the standard rate. Treat the exact figures as an example, not a promise. The amounts change, and yours depend on your situation. But stack a couple of qualifying situations together, and the difference between the veteran who claimed it and the identical veteran who never knew can run into thousands of dollars a year, year after year, for the rest of their life. That's the cost of not knowing this layer exists. And it's completely silent, because the check that never grew is a check you never see, so you never miss it, and you never go looking. Let me put a real face on this. Picture a veteran I'll call Walter. Walter is rated at 100%, and as far as he's concerned, he's hit the ceiling. There's nothing more the VA could possibly owe him. What Walter never mentioned to anyone, because who would, is that the medications he'd taken for years for his service-connected condition had left him with a problem he'd been quietly living with. He had no idea it was connected to anything, and he certainly never imagined it was worth money. When someone finally, gently, walked him through special monthly compensation and he claimed it properly, an additional payment single month, for something he'd been silently carrying for a decade. Nothing about Walter changed. The only thing that changed is that somebody finally told him this layer existed, and that there was no shame in claiming it. Most veterans never get that somebody. Today, I'm yours. So here's exactly what to do with this. First, understand that your rating and this benefit are two different things. Being at 100% doesn't close the door, it just means you look one level up. Second, go back down the situations I described and ask yourself honestly which ones touch your life: loss of use of a hand, a foot, your vision, your hearing, the reproductive issue, especially if it traces to your medications or a service-connected condition, whether you're essentially housebound, whether you need another person's help to get through your day. Third, when you file, you have to claim special monthly compensation by name and connect it to your service-connected conditions, because it will not be handed to you automatically. And fourth, do not do it alone. Because wherever there's money owed to veterans, somebody shows up trying to take a cut of it. So let me be clear, you never have to pay anyone a fee or a percentage of your back pay to claim this. There are free, accredited veteran service officers, VSOS, through the big veterans organizations and your county office, whose entire job is to sit down with you, look at your conditions, and catch exactly the kind good one will ask you the uncomfortable questions you'd never volunteer, the ones that uncover this money, without an ounce of judgment, because they've heard it all 1,000 times. If anyone offers to recover this for you in exchange for a slice of your check, hang up. The people who do this best do it for free. So let me bring it all together. There's an entire layer of compensation sitting above your rating: special monthly compensation, a separate payment for serious losses, for the medication side effect men never mention, for being housebound, and for needing another person's help to get through the day. And in the right situations, more than one can be paid at once. The veterans who collect it aren't luckier than you, and they weren't hurt worse than you. They simply found out it existed and claimed it by name. Now you know it exists too. One honest note before you go: I'm giving you information, not medical or legal advice for your specific case, so talk to an accredited VSO who can look at your actual record. But don't sit on this. And do me one favor, share it with a veteran you know, especially an older one at a high rating who assumes there's nothing more the VA could owe him. He may be sitting on a second check he's never heard of. The VA isn't going to bring it up. You can. Subscribe, turn on the bell, and I'll see you in the next one. Drop it in downloads / and I'll take it through assembly.